Americans and Brits may speak the same language, but these 30 British phrases will completely confuse you. 30. Knock up. Americans think it means get someone pregnant. In the UK, it just means to wake someone by knocking on their door. 29. Fancy a cuppa? Americans imagine decorating a teacup, but in Britain, it simply means, do you want some tea? 28. Taking the mickey. Americans think of Mickey Mouse, but in the UK, it just means teasing or making fun of someone. 27. Spend a penny. Americans think it means spending money, but in the UK, it's just a polite way to say going to the toilet. 26. Snog. Americans think it means having a snack, but in the UK, it actually means to kiss. 25. Bugger off. Sounds super rude to American ears, but in Britain, it's just a casual way of saying leave me alone. 24. Cheeky pint. Americans think it's a talking beer glass, but in the UK, it just means sneaking off for a pint of beer. 23. Pop round. Americans imagine a balloon popping, but in the UK, it just means quickly stopping by someone's house. 22. Jammy. Americans think it means covered in jam, but in the UK, it actually means lucky. 21. Knackered. Americans think it means fighting, but in the UK, it just means exhausted. 20. Lost the plot. Americans think it's about a missing movie script, but in the UK, it just means gone crazy or confused. 19. Bits and bobs. Americans imagine kids' toys scattered everywhere, but in the UK, it just means small random things. 18. Americans get confused, but in the UK, it's just a cute way of saying thanks. 17. Off your trolley. Americans picture someone falling off a shopping cart, but in the UK, it just means crazy or out of your mind. 16. Gobsmacked. Americans imagine someone getting punched in the face, but in the UK, it just means absolutely shocked. 15. Brolly. Americans might think it's a silly nickname, but in the UK, it just means umbrella. 14. That's pants. Americans hear it and just think of trousers, but in the UK, it actually means that's rubbish or bad. 13. Mate. Americans might think mate means boyfriend, but in the UK, it's just a friendly way of saying buddy or pal. 12. Dodgy. Americans might not get it, but in the UK, dodgy means suspicious, sketchy, or just a bit risky. 11. Chips. Americans often think of chips as crispy snacks, but in the UK, chips just means fries, so don't get confused at the fish and chip shop. 10. I'll give you a bell. Americans might think you're handing them a bell, but in the UK, it just means I'll give you a call. Boot of the car. Americans might think of footwear, but in the UK, the boot is just the trunk of the car. 8. On the pull. Americans might get confused, but in the UK, on the pull just means trying to pick someone up or flirting. 7. Loo. Americans might be confused, but in the UK, loo just means the toilet, simple. 6. I'm chuffed. Americans might think you're angry, but in the UK, I'm chuffed actually means you're really pleased or happy. 5. Biscuit. Americans might think of a soft, sweet biscuit, but in the UK, a biscuit is usually a crunchy cookie. 4. Gutted. Americans might hear gutted and think something gruesome, but in the UK, it just means you're really disappointed. 3. Peckish. Americans might think of a bird pecking, but in the UK, peckish just means a little hungry. 2. Full stop. Americans might think full stop means to halt, but in the UK, it's just another way to say period at the end of a sentence. 1. Knackered. Feeling exhausted. That's knackered in UK speak. Let's do a fun recap of our top 3 favourite confusing British words. 1. That's pants. Rubbish, not underwear. 2, mate. Not a boyfriend, just a buddy. 3, gutted, really disappointed, not anything gruesome. And that's it. Remember, learning British English is confusing, but fun. Confused yet? Don't miss part 2. Hit subscribe and ring that bell for more hilariously tricky British words.